Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Let Me Explain World Cup version. In this show, as some of you already understand, we discuss the game, the World Cup, yes, and all the happenings around Qatar. But the show is not just a football show. We also get to discuss to give you a geopolitical understanding over some of the things that are taking place in the region that the World Cup is being hosted. It helps you understand human sociology and how we are and how we relate with each other. In particular, football in particular is really good at giving us a window into what is taking place around the world. And so once again, welcome, and as we bring you this show, please do not forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you can catch more of the different happenings around this cup. And as I begin, I want to acknowledge, let me just begin where we started yesterday, where we were talking about Qatar and FIFA and the World Cup, and talking about the dynamics that have taken place leading up to FIFA granting the World Cup to Qatar, and the many things that have been said about that. And one of the stinging criticisms that this World Cup has had is people speaking about the human rights injustices that have taken place in Qatar. And I had spoken about that and talked about the fact that we actually do need to do a little bit of research ourselves so that we really make sure that the figures that we are talking about and different things are actually accurate, and because there's a lot of conflicting reports out there. But having said that, I would stand by the fact that it is important for these human rights abuses to be addressed. And sometimes that may actually be the beauty of bringing a World Cup into a region, is because certain things that are looked at in that space as being normal can actually come under the microscope and allow the people themselves that live in that region to rethink some of the practices that they themselves have felt are normal. One thing that became a highlight today, especially as both England and Netherlands played, is there was a proposal that was put forward by the Netherlands to have the World Cup teams, at the very least, I'm sure England and the Netherlands, to wear a captain's armband. Their captains to wear a captain's armband that said "One Love" on it. And so the proposal was shut down at the last minute, and so that was a big talk. This was, of course, going to be a human rights stance that captains of different teams were going to make, and the proposal got shut down at the last minute, and so that's why people were very frustrated about that. That's been the talk. There's also the talk of Iranian players today, as they played against England, not singing their national anthem. That has been a very big deal. Having said that, and having talked about the fact that it is important that we research things, though, there was a rumor spreading around a few days ago, it must have been this past week, that said that the Iranian government had sentenced 15,000 people to death for protesting the human rights abuses that are being protested over in that region right now, mainly by the women of the country. And so the rumor said that 15,000 people were going to be executed. Fact check, not true. Not true. So again, there are things taking place there that we do not agree with, but at the same time, to lie about something, to try and bring forward justice is a very interesting way of thinking about life and the world. And so I encourage you, and we encourage you on this show, to make sure that you're taking the time to do your research around these issues. Let's go to the games. First, England versus Iran. So England this morning, my morning, could have been an evening for you, had a hammering of Iran, beat Iran by 6 goals to 2. I thought that Iran was going to provide more resistance than that, but partly because England is coming into this tournament out of form. There's been a lot of controversy around their starting lineup and who plays, who doesn't, who shouldn't go to the World Cup at all, who doesn't. Harry Maguire, who's one of the key players for the English national team, plays for Manchester United, hasn't seen a whole lot of playing time there. Has been a very controversial player in terms of the many mistakes that he's made for Manchester United. The English coach, Gareth Southgate, has always rated Harry Maguire. And so he opted not only to take him, but he opted to start him today, and he had a really good game. Along with that, Raheem Sterling, who in recent tournaments has actually carried England in terms of scoring goals, also hasn't been playing well for Chelsea Football Club, and the coach took him, the coach started him, he had his goal today. And so it's very interesting that we think well when we're thinking about like the international game and we're thinking about club football, because an international team, a national team is a team also, right? That plays well with certain players when certain players are present. So I think that the national team coach is entitled to make decisions over who he plays and who he doesn't, and it is okay if he picks some of his trusted lieutenants even at a time when for their club they're out of form, as long as they can perform at the international level. I do rate Iran. It's a good team. Iran is coached by, some of you might remember Carlos Queiroz, who was the assistant manager over at Manchester United, assisting Sir Alex Ferguson, who is one of the greatest coaches in the history of the game. In fact, it is this manager who is credited to have helped bring the Manchester United game forward into the modern times. And so he is a very, very highly rated manager. He has managed over at Real Madrid. Of course, he is my neighbor, born in Mozambique, in Africa. And so being that he is such a good manager and his Iranian team has done well, I expected so much more from them. But just like Qatar did yesterday, it seemed like Iran really didn't come out of the blocks. Right? Didn't offer much resistance. And every time that they actually tried to, and they would lose their discipline, they got walloped. So 6 goals scored by England, Bukayo Saka of Arsenal on 2 goals, Jude Bellingham, Borussia Dortmund on the score sheet. That kid is a ball player. That kid is a player. I've seen England play for at least now 3 decades, right? And I have seen players come and go. I've seen the English so-called golden generation with the David Beckhams and the Paul Scholes and the Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, and all of those were really good midfielders. But I'd never seen anyone at that kind of age do what Jude Bellingham did today. He really took that midfield by the scruff of its neck, and he's really announced himself in the World Cup, and he is only 19 years of age. What an impressive thing. Also, talking about that, watching over and looking at the little cameo that Callum Wilson made, I know that there was a lot of talk about, why take him to the World Cup. I'd always felt like he was actually a good take, because he offers something different from what Harry Kane offers. If you're being pushed back, Callum Wilson of Newcastle United has pace to burn. And so I thought that was a good take, and he had a wonderful assist today. I mean, playing at what I believe is his first World Cup. Can you imagine having a chance, and then instead of him taking it himself, squaring it over to another player who finished? And so really good game for England overall. There's the other controversy. There's lots of little things about the starting lineup, right? So maybe for me, a little bit surprised that Phil Foden didn't start. But I was not surprised that Bukayo Saka started ahead of him. He may have had a shout, in my opinion, in the number 10 position, But I think when you compare him and Bukayo Saka, I would take Bukayo Saka. I think Saka is better in that end because he has pure pace, he can take on players, and he's not just a positional play kind of guy. And I know that I'm taking a lot from Phil Foden there, but I love the directness of Bukayo Saka, and he proved to be a good call to be included in that team today. So England 6, Iran 2. England 6, Iran 2, and let's hope that Iran will make a better show and a better case for themselves next time they play. I wouldn't start singing It's Coming Home just yet though. I think we have to come up with the right resistance, and I actually believe that the United States can provide that right resistance to this England team. So I look forward to that game. Netherlands versus Senegal, and very, very unfortunate that for the African champions, their key marksman, Sadio Mane, couldn't be at this tournament, got injured at the very, very, very end. Like about a week before the tournament began. I am a little bit worried on who is going to take that mantle up front for Senegal to deputize for Sadio Mane. Other than that, I do like the team. Yes, a major mistake and a bit of a shaky game by Mendy in goals, to let in that first goal that was headed in by Gakpo of Netherlands. So that is a huge error that you cannot make at this stage. But I'll still hold on to hope that Senegal can figure it out and they can come through. The Netherlands are being coached also by a former Man United coach, really good coach. Some people may have some questions about his tactics, but at least at the international level, we have seen him coach and we know what he can do. Question marks for Netherlands over their front line, right? They don't quite have the types of world beaters that they used to have in the past, like the guys the likes of Patrick Kluivert, or fairly recently Robin van Persie and Arjen Robben and guys like that. So the forward line is a bit questionable. I know that Bergwijn can play. I know that he is a good player, but I just don't know if once the actual difficult moments come, if he can be your man. Memphis Depay would have been that guy, but Depay hasn't played much for Barcelona and has been off form himself and almost going through a bit of an identity crisis, right? Because when you have been rejected at 2 big clubs, he was at Manchester United and he didn't quite cut it there. And then he went to Barcelona and he was beginning to do well, and he's falling off the rails again. More because the manager doesn't quite fancy his way of playing, but it's difficult to see a guy like that having the right confidence to be able to take this Netherlands team forward. Netherlands is really, really, really good at the back, playing with the back three of Virgil van Dijk, world class, De Ligt, world class, and Nathan Ake, who plays for Manchester City, a really, really good player. And I also think that in the midfield with De Jong is a classy player. And then the last game of the day saw the United States tie Wales 1-1. What a missed opportunity that was. The US leading in the first half, doing really well. They clearly had control of the game. The US midfield, moving the ball really, really well, and then scoring an all-important goal. Scored, by the way, fascinatingly, by Timothy Weah, whose father is a president of an African nation. I've always found that to be a little extra, right? So Timothy Weah's father, George Weah, is one of the biggest icons of African football, Ballon d'Or winner, and he played for Liberia, right? And he is now the president of Liberia, but his son plays for the United States. So once again, remember that the world is very, very intricate and that we are a lot more interconnected than we would like to admit. And so yes, the United States, scored first through Ware. And I was, sitting at a place and talking to some friends about the game and just saying, you know what? The US is on the ascendancy. They're doing really well. But the problem was Wales has two players who can turn the game on its head in a moment. So I was always worried for the United States about that. And of course, one of them is Aaron Ramsey, who didn't have such a great game, but he's a goal scorer. He has a late arrival in the box and he can score goals. And then Gareth Bale can do a thing. And that's exactly what he did, right? A bit of a questionable penalty, but like I was saying, talking to those friends, we have seen them given. Right? So a little moment of experience where he just puts himself in between the ball and the man. He goes down, penalty, and he takes it. Matt Turner, the keeper, almost stopped it, but scored 1-1. Now, the United States is going to have to go in and, have a sense of urgency against England. Whilst if they won this game and they had 3 points, maybe they could have gone into the next game against England and try to tie and try to at least get 1 point and then take their chances against Iran in their last game. What complicates this now is that the United States will have to go into the England game trying to win that game, especially if Wales ends up beating Iran. Because then what will happen at the very end is you could meet an Iran team that is already out of the tournament, that has nothing to lose, and that can be very, very complicated, right? Because then teams begin to play without shackles, they begin to play free. And that is a bit of a worry for me, for the United States as they go into the next few matches. But United States versus England, always a nice watch. One thing I noted in the game for the United States is this. Is it a great team? By no means, right? Is this the most talented crop of American players? Absolutely yes. Many of them playing for really good teams in Europe, including teams like AC Milan, right? Obviously, Chelsea, Fulham. You have these guys that are playing really well. Leeds United and Aronson, who I rate, playing very, very well. A very talented United States team. The one thing that has changed that I am not sure that I love this change is that as the team is beginning to play the game properly, I feel like the United States has actually lost its intensity and it's lost its physicality. The United States team used to be quick and they used to have this blinding intensity. They cannot lose that because that was a marker of the American game. And so as we are looking at the games, going forward, that is one of the things that I would be, paying attention to, because you definitely, most definitely cannot lose that. So there you got it about the World Cup. Tomorrow we have Argentina playing against Saudi Arabia. So Argentina being one of the favorites. We have Denmark playing against Tunisia. Denmark being one of my dark horses. Mexico versus Poland. The interesting thing about Mexico is that they have never not made it out of the group stages. So that's an interesting watch. Mexico has never not made it out of the group stages. A lot of people are predicting that this could be the first time that Mexico doesn't make it out of the group stages, which would be scandalous, but be on the lookout for that. And then we have France versus Australia, a depleted French team that has a lot of major injuries. Guys like Benzema and Pogba, who runs that midfield, but who also is the spiritual leader of the team, no pun intended. And of course, N'Golo Kante, who is the heartbeat, right, for recovery for those balls. He's just an amazing football player. And so they'll be missing those guys in the play against Australia tomorrow. And so, yeah, let's go check out the games. But again, do not forget to leave your questions or your comments below. And please, 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 please subscribe to this channel. We have so much to talk about in this month and even beyond this month. Ciao. Blessings to you all.